Hey, folks, welcome to the Lions Den, and we have an exciting program. We are the front porch to your weekend, and we're going to kick it off in style today. Have Zeb with me behind the camera today. Zeb, you ready to take this political stroll over the next couple of months here?
Hey, I'm here. I'm here for it. You know, I enjoy the politics, Friday.
You do indeed. This is your wheelhouse, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to kick it off in a big way. In a moment, I'll introduce our guests who will need no introduction. You'll recognize both of these fellas, and I'm very excited to have them here. They've been on a tour with, I think your tour guide's been Mr. Billy Norris, fellas. He's a good one, isn't he?
Billy Morris.
He knows some folks, and he's behind the scenes in the studio here today. He's solid over there. Just gave me the thumbs up. Good to see you, Billy. Zeb, good to see you, man. What did the weekend bring for you this week? What did the week bring to you?
I took it pretty easy this week, to be honest with you. I got to recoup. Doing this daily thing, it kind of blends into your mental a little bit, especially with the state of the nation and trying to sift through what's good, what's bad, and where we're at. It's a little bit of a headache, so I kind of backed off a little bit. We're going to be heading into next week pretty heavy, so I don't know, buckle up for that one.
Well, these federal politicians are giving you a lot of content, aren't they?
Too much. I'm shooting for 1.5 hour shows, and I'm doing 3. So you tell me.
Yeah. Was that before we get started here today? And I think, of course, we're the Lions Den, but I think Tigers have invaded us today. But before we get started, let's check in with Flowtown Flo. You got her on standby? This is the one and only, the beautiful, the talented Flowtown Flo. Flo, welcome.
Thank you. Happy first day of spring.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to it. That cold weather, I've had enough of it.
Yeah, you and me both, son.
It's time to toil the dirt, and I think I'm alluding again to who our guest will be today. Flo, tell us what's on tap here. What can the folks in the Horry, I think you're in Georgetown today, but what can the folks in Horry and PD look forward to this weekend?
Well, I tell you, tonight, 7 o'clock, we're going to have some music from D. Talon at Crew and Wine Tap, downtown Florence. Then at 7:30, we're going to have NASCAR weekend's truck race at the Darlington Raceway. Now, you know it's race weekend here, and you know what that means. Red
We all do.
Engines. And then at 7:15, PD Ice Cats hockey. They're going to play the Monroe Moccasins at the Florence Center.
Good deal. I'm going to try to talk Jack Rock into going out there tonight.
Oh, yeah. Tell them to let him drop the puck. Then tomorrow in Florence, 11 a.m., the Florence Little Theater Schoolhouse Players, they're going to present The Ugly Duckling. And that's suitable for all ages. So go on out and see that. Then from 9 to 1, of course, we always have the City Farmers Market, downtown Florence. And then at 5:30, going to have NASCAR's Xfinity race at the Darlington Raceway. 7:15, again, we're going to go back to the Florence Center for the PD Ice Cats versus the Monroe Moccasins. Hockey. And then at 7:30, yeah, man. And then at 7:30, we're going to have music from Gary Lewis and the Playboys. I don't know if any of y'all are old enough to remember them from the 60s, but they had some pop and rock hits.
Billy, you know them? Carry on, Flo.
Carry on, okay. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be, and Ed Pietrowski's going to be in historic Georgetown for the Bridge to Bridge run at 7 a.m. And then if you want to go on down to Huntington Beach State Park in Murrells Inlet, Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 4, they're going to have Kite Festival with kites, live music, food trucks, inflatable, and kids activities. So there's a lot to do down there Saturday and Sunday. Then Sunday in Florence, we're going to have from noon to 3 live music by Walker Godwin at Holy Smokin'. And then at 3 o'clock, start your engines because it's the annual NASCAR Goodyear 400 at the Darlington Raceway. What you talking about? And then that's all I got. But I'm going to tell y'all now, mark your calendars, look ahead. In a week is going to be the Florence Wine and Food Festival, March 26th through the 28th. And then, of course, the Florence Greek Festival is coming up April 30th through May 2nd. So y'all mark your calendars for that. That's all I got right now.
We appreciate you keeping us in the know, Flo. We will see you next week.
All right.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
All right. You too. Bye.
All right. So, Zeb, we're really privileged today. I've been talking to these gentlemen for the last couple of weeks, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, engaging these guys. These guys are tracking all over South Carolina, burning the midnight oil. They've spent a good bit of time in the PD here in the last couple of days, meeting a lot of folks. And of course, the name arrives before they do. Everybody knows these folks. So let's give a warm welcome. First of all, running for the Ag Commissioner here in South Carolina, we have no other than Lee Ford. What a pleasure to have you here, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all having me and giving me an opportunity to get my message out there and share my thoughts on South Carolina.
You want to introduce the unknown to your right there?
I'm going to let you do it. I'll do that wrong.
I've enjoyed talking to these gentlemen. Of course, it's a father-son tantrum, but you guys go back and forth a little bit that I've noticed. A lot of mutual respect, but look, the love is absolutely there. I see it. No other than the legend, Coach Danny Ford. What a privilege to have you here as well, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. Glad today's Friday. Road this long, and it takes a little bit out of a 77-year-old man rather than a 30-year-old man. So we're glad to see everybody. Glad to shake hands. Glad to be around. But when it's time to go home and see the grandbabies and be back on the road Monday.
Things are a little different now. I know the recruiting trail. You're probably used to these tough hours, but it's been a little while now, right?
Been a while, and it's not altogether that much different, though. I mean, you go out and you respect the people you see. You talk to them. If they will give you their ear, you try to recruit them and tell them what we're going to do good. And then if they're for somebody else, you say, well, good luck to you, and we see you down the road. You know, it's just like playing an opponent in a football game. You never talk down to your opponent before a game because you're going to get beat. And after it, you always if you win, you want to be very nice. If you lose, you want to get it home because you got your butt beat. You know?
Well, Zeb, let's play a clip. We're going to focus on Lee here today, and he's got quite a story. Lee, you've impressed me in our conversations. You were on a very popular show this morning, Ken Ard's show, and you guys tag teamed it, but people had to like what they heard today. You're well versed in the ag realm, so we look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. Before we kick off, look, you know you don't apologize for it. No reason. You've got the experience, but the namesake certainly doesn't help, and we've talked about that. Let's play a clip because this is probably the loudest I've ever seen Death Valley. You'll see Lee and his dad in here.
Yeah.
Feel free to vocalize anything here during the clip. Hit it, Zeb.
I can remember Dad had those hats made, and they said Ford Farms on them, and he didn't get but about 20 made. And I'm talking about every neighbor that we had just beat down the door trying to get one. You could not keep them. We should have probably sold some.
Listen to this place rock, though. Well, what does it feel when you all that?
This was still relatively quiet. You know, when it gets to where you can't hear the announcer, I mean, the ground shook. I've been in so many stadiums across the country. I mean, I used to run. That was my playground growing up. I mean, when I had my 5th birthday in Arkansas, I think it was at the Razorback Stadium, and we played football, and then we played hide and go seek across the whole stadium. So, you know, we got to do stuff like that. But it it's the loudest I've ever heard a stadium. There's no doubt.
So you're honoring this gentleman here.
That was Bill Wilhelm right there.
Okay.
And his wife, of course, Bill Wilhelm was a great baseball coach at Clemson and did a tremendous job. And that was his wife there and two sons. So.
What a great gesture you're giving there.
And that's our the little girl right there is my dad's granddaughter, first granddaughter, and this is when it starts to get loud.
Yeah, it does.
You can't hear them talking, and that's the only way you know it's that loud. But they flew her from Texas to be there that day, and that was something that was very, very special to her.
That was more important seeing my granddaughter there than the award they
bet.
gave us because she was in Texas.
You wiped your eyes there, Coach. Were they watering a little bit?
I guess, or I could have. I don't know who we were playing. It might have been some ugly jerseys on the other side.
Look, I've watched this several times. Look at the band people in the back go to grinning when they announce it. I mean, it's just so loud.
My granddaughter loved it too, and we all did. Well, that was a special moment. If anybody ever gets an honor, but my father told me one time a long time ago we were playing a basketball game in junior high school, and we got beat in a tournament, and it named the all tournament team. I happened to make it. I walked out there with my head down, slinging, and not being appreciative of the award. And he said, "It don't matter, son. Anytime, whether you win, lose, or draw, when somebody is talking nice about you, you look them in the eye and be not gracious and say thank you very much." It was a great honor. So I still, I've got been fortunate to have a lot of plaques due to the great players that we had. But those plaques are mostly put up in the barn now. So I don't have a house to keep them in big enough, so I got them all in boxes. But I'm proud of every one of them. I'm mostly proud of our players, and now we're playing in a different game. We're playing in a game that now that this young man wants to go and try to fulfill a dream that he's got and try to help the state of South Carolina. I think we that was our goal when we came to Clemson, was to help the university, and our goal was to make everybody very proud of that school. And I think that's sort of his dream. He can tell you more about it than I do. And I'm just here for the ride. I don't want to take away his time, but I do want to support him and let everybody know we need you. Somebody told me about politics. The first thing you say is, "We need your help."
Absolutely.
And you ask for help, and we need your help in several ways. We need your votes. We need if you're able to support him financially. It takes a lot of money to run. I hate like the devil to ask anybody for anything, but it's going to take some funds to run a campaign. We're learning, and when we were coaching, all this was given to us. We didn't have to do all this,
Gotcha.
but now we do. And so, if the people will get behind us and help us, we need your help, and it can be one, but it's got to take a lot of people throughout the state, that the normal people, groundswell people,
Yeah.
boots on the ground people, and that's what we're looking for.
Well, I've seen that in conversation with Lee. You guys are taking this on your shoulder. One thing that I really like about Lee, we were talking a little bit earlier. I've been in this realm for quite a while, and when people come to me and say, "Look, I'm thinking about running," I've got people approach me. That's the biggest turnoff. If somebody's got to approach you to run, there's a problem there. It's got to be within you. It's got to be your passion, and I've seen that very quickly on you. Guys, my daddy was a tobacco farmer.
Oh, yeah.
And I put more, dispute it if you want to, anybody, but I put more tobacco up in my arms than anybody I know. And it's a grind. It's
sticky arms.
You can do all the right things as a farmer, and you're still the external factors. And y'all can speak on that a little bit. I know you do a lot of livestock.
Oh, yeah.
It can still go
it's always
sideways.
got the ability to go sideways. That's, we battle so much with the weather, with the disease, the different things that, it's getting to a point in farming that this stuff is so expensive that we've got to have help when something like that comes along. When we have a big disaster or something that might put our farm out of business, we need help, from the government, from the community. We had some troubles in the last year, and man, when you are down on the farm and the ox is in the ditch, as they used to say, and you see that car pull through that gate, it brings you to your knees. You wouldn't imagine how thankful that those people are that you're helping, and that has been a big drive of me wanting to be that person to come through and to support these farmers and to give them what they need to be successful.
You're right. This position here is the biggest advocate for farmers. You say farmers need help, and so I'm an open Republican, and we frown upon type welfare, but this is totally different, guys. So many people depend on what you guys do in South Carolina. Depending on who you ask, if you ask me, I'll say it's farmer, even though I respect tourism, which is our biggest industry, tourism or farming, timber. And I side, both of them are huge, but I side on the farming side.
I've dug into it. And so the way that hits is when you put all of the economic impact into the agriculture and everything that it brings, it is the number one. If you take all the economic impact and you just do what's produced, it's about the third. And then right in the middle there, either way, is basically the people tourism and stuff like that coming to the state, which we get a lot of money from.
Right. We'll dive in a little deeper in some of the particulars, but I want the folks, because I think this is important to know. Character means a lot to me, and it should mean a lot to everybody, because that's what it's all based on. And I know you were probably like me, knowing the coach and watching him. There was probably a lot of discipline in your household. So let's digress. Let's talk about the succession of your life, how you were raised, the things you did. I can't wait till you get to the steer handling or steer wrestling. I can't wait to get there.
I love it.
But start as a kid growing up in the Ford household under this legend.
People don't really understand how it is to be in the football. They see it from the outside in and they see the good and they don't necessarily see the bad with it. One great thing that I got to do is I got to travel everywhere, meet everybody, be in the front of the most impressive people and just be a kid. So it wasn't, being in front of those people, it wasn't anxious nerves or anything else. I just got to play with them and be myself. And so it was, it's hard to impress me now as a person because of who all I've been around. And, you can ask Dad. I mean, it's a lot of people just love him, and I'll tell him real quick what I know. You know what I mean? So
I've noticed that you guys spar back and forth. But here's what I like about both of y'all. The humbleness has stayed intact. I really appreciate that. Despite all you guys done, the humbleness remains.
He's been humble. I don't think that, I feel like I'm still just a person struggling like everybody else out there and trying to find their way, trying to raise a family. I have a 1 and a 4-year-old. And so, that has definitely been instilled in me, the way he treats people. And, he's always been the people's champion. Yeah. It's always, breaking real quick. When we were high school rodeoing, we'd be out there getting fuel at a gas station, and he'd have 30 kids standing over there getting daggum autographs, and they wouldn't have anything to sign, and they'd be, sign my shirt, and he'd make them go ask their parents and get permission. And so
I had a request from somebody here today. The coach graciously signed.
Well, he's not telling you about. I didn't care for him to be a farmer or be a.
Did you want him to be a Did you want him to be a linebacker, coach?
Well, certainly you want him to follow in your footsteps, and I'm saying, well, I have 3 girls, and all of a sudden the boy shows up, and the baby, so I know there ain't no more coming. So he's it, and then he tells me in about the 7th, 8th grade that he played football in junior high, and he said, I don't like. Oh, and this is what's very important out there for any parents listening. Don't try to force children to do something that they don't want to do, and make them don't live their life for them. I think is advice I could give if anybody wants any advice from an old man. But you turn them loose, let them do it. And he said, I'm going to be going. Well, I said, well, if you ain't going to play football, you like me. We had a garden, if in a big garden, and if my daddy got off work at Goodyear and he went straight to the garden, and if I'm not playing sports, I'm in the garden, and I'm working. I don't like the garden, back at 12 and 13.
I didn't like the tobacco.
So anyway, so I say, well, you're going to go to work. You're going to go to school. You got to go to work. And so I heard that more times growing up. You shake stick at. So he said,
He said, I said, you go to work? What am I going to do? Well, veterinarian was up close to us. So the darn vet cost me a lot of money. He got him in the roping. Then it ain't like a baseball glove or a football. You gotta have a truck. You gotta have a trailer. You gotta have a
saddles,
horse. You gotta have a
ropes.
saddle. Then you gotta feed the darn thing. Well, so there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
And then they get hurt.
That's
You know?
that was the choice he chose. That's why he's choosing what he wants to do now, and that's why I'm backing him and behind him. And good luck to him. So y'all carry away.
And I'll give you a little insight on that, and I'm not even sure that he knows this. But Dad, it was going to be hard to compete with that name in football.
Absolutely.
And we moved back in middle school, and he's right. Absolutely. I'd taken an interest in horses when we were in Arkansas. And, that was something that my dad and I did whenever he was recruiting and we didn't get to see each other much. And, we would have a year or a weekend or two off a year to go do something with him and I. Well, we always went to farms. That was what we always did. Our farm was back in South Carolina. We lived in a subdivision. So I always thought it was odd that Dad would take his day off and go work on someone else's farm, but it was the help. You know what I mean? And I look at that now and I see it as, those people, I mean, it must have been so good for them to have Danny Ford to come out there and help them with their cows, whether it be give vaccines, or tag them or whatever we were doing. But I can remember several families in Arkansas that we used to go connect with and do that. And so we moved back to Arkansas and back from Arkansas. And I was at R.C. Edwards was the school I went to. And I think it'd been 19 years since they'd lost a game. And that first year I was in there, I think we lost 2. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, I was like, oh, this is not going the way we need to go for me to get into football. So, I saw what he had done. And the biggest thing that the Fords are competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't compete with him in football. I didn't believe it, a 14-year-old kid. And there was this opportunity in agriculture and in the rodeo. And it was so such a turn on to me just to see how it was so impossible to get on a horse and to go rope a cow and to want to accomplish that and to be able to do that proficiently was something that literally ate up most of my young childhood working at it, So I got very good at it. I went on and was very competitive in the state. Usually was in the top 4 in all the events that I did if I didn't win. And we would go to the finals every year. Now, the high school rodeo is a very good organization in South Carolina. It helps a lot of kids get started, brings a lot of money to the people in rodeo. And when we had gotten started in that, you have a national finals out in Wyoming, Illinois, somewhere across the country. And so we went out there and I was lucky enough. I think I placed 5th in the steer wrestling.
Nothing lucky about it, bro.
No, yeah, I mean, and then I was 14th in the calf roping. And so it was, I don't know, I think I'd probably be one of the only ones in South Carolina that had ever placed twice in the top 20 or 10 or something. But what they do is they take 4 people from each state in each event and internationally. So Canada, all provinces are there. Australia's there. There's a few different countries that come to it. And you get to go out to the largest rodeo that is all kids and meet these kids from different countries, different states, hear how they do stuff. And so that was really, really fun to me to go be a part of. And, it's kind of like what your daddy or mama told you. It doesn't matter how good you are. There's somebody always out there better. Well, I was pretty decent in South Carolina. When you got in that truck and went out west, it went from a small fish in a, big pond to a big fish in a small pond. It was, or vice versa. It was a lot harder to get along. So, just having that little bit of confidence and getting to a place in my rodeo career that I felt like I was competitive was really big to me and giving me that competitive edge to go get started.
Right. We're missing Jack right today, and you just prompted me. That little statement you said, there's always somebody better. Jack White says, no, mama, somebody's got to be the best.
Yeah, they do. They do. They're out there. They usually took my money whenever I pulled up,
Well, how good did it feel? Similar in my life. So, I was a football guy, right? And everybody thought my son was going to be a linebacker. Yeah. And he chose a different route. He sang and he acted. And as we talked earlier, he's a doctor now, but I embraced that, I did. And that's great advice, because if it's not their passion, it's the wrong pathway.
I tell you, no matter what happens in the rest of my lifetime, nor what happens in what path he chooses to go forward, and if it's so to be it, backing of all the people in South Carolina, and he happens able to win this race, that will be a big to do, but it's nothing as big as my friendship he brought me at 1 and 4 years old now.
I did good on them.
Is he a softie?
Oh, I did good on them. I might not can do a lot, but I can put some kids down. I'm telling you, I can put some cute kids out there.
But when I was coaching, I never made time or had time. I always used to excuse I never had time to be a daddy, and mama raised them by themselves. Then all of a sudden now I got a little bit more as a grandfather before he started this darn thing. And I see them daily. Most of the time I have dinner with them at night, at least 4 or 5 times a week. And I'm watching them learn how to walk, which I missed all my other children how to do that. I've watched them play. I'm watching them learn how to talk. And it's just a valuable time in my life that's what I'm most proud of him doing. But he's got he's going to see what it's like to jump in this deal and try to win a race.
Well, it's all competitive, and you guys got that in your blood. There's no question.
Well, we've talked about this. Me and my dad. I promise you, we have had 100 conversations about, do you want to do this? Are you sure that this is what you want to do? And I've told him, I'm proud of what I'm doing. This agriculture race has a bigger spotlight on it than it's ever had. Mm-hmm. I'm proud of that. I want to take the walk down this road, and if something happens, I'm not successful and I'm not lucky, then I promise you that I have a huge leg up on how to operate as a farmer in the state of South Carolina, because I've seen and visited all of them, and I know all the problems, and I can fill in some of those gaps. I can do all the things that I've learned. I've run all over, and they tell me the problems, and the people that are just doing the commodities and the different things, it's tough on them. But the guys that go out there and market their own product and take it all the way up, they don't depend on as much. So they have a little bit better edge on it, So I really think it's valuable, win, lose, or draw, to go through it and to take everything that's put in front of me. It's obviously going to be hard, but there's so much knowledge that you get to going out there and speaking. This is something that me and my dad always did when I was young. The one thing that he says is, this is special, us getting in the car and roughing it. No, we've been doing that all our life. It don't
no
matter.
Stranger to that.
Hey, it doesn't matter if we were football game and rodeo and hunting, whatever it was, going to see family. Listen, this man does it on the shoestring budget and just going at it. And so that's how we've always done. And that's what's propelled us in this race. Right. And that's probably the only thing that'll save us through the end, is having the work ethic. And, we're competitive. If you knock us down, we're going to get back up. We've been knocked down a whole lot. He's been beat a whole lot of times. He won a whole lot of times. I've rode a whole lot of horses that hurt me, and I've won a whole lot of horses that won me money. So, it's not going to be just an easy path, and we don't look for that, but we do look for the knowledge that comes from walking that trail.
Right. Guys, I deem this position as one of the most important in the state, because in South Carolina, that's who we are.
Yeah.
And there's so many challenges ahead. Let's take a look at one of the, not the clip, but I think we've got a visual, and it kind of shows this platform. Well, we can stop right there. We can digress right here. So, tell me who we got. Oh, here. Okay.
Yeah.
You're good. The one you just had up there. Okay. Yeah. So you do have a platform. Guys, it's even biblical. The first job on earth was taking care of the Garden of Eve, right? I mean, it's biblical, you know?
Absolutely.
And bring it back to South Carolina. That is truly
And-
who we are. And in these times, oh gosh, all that the farmers are going through.
It's tough.
So many challenges, so many things stacked against you. Let's talk about some of your platforms.
Yeah,
Just
and-
take them in any order you want
Sure.
to.
And the other thing on that one I just wanted to point out is it's biblical and it's American. You know, when they came over and settled and met with the Indians the first Thanksgiving, it was eating good whole food and sharing and being part of a community. You know, now that's what I see wanting to get back to all the way around is getting the healthy food. But yeah, I mean, we've had 79% increase in residents in the state of South Carolina.
State's growing like crazy.
It's growing
Yeah.
like crazy. And every time we turn around, you know, I've been pretty vocal in our area about pushing back on some of the development. You know, sometimes they have the right, sometimes they're buying a plot out of bankruptcy and adding a plot onto it, big farm, and saying, oh, this is all, you know, and so you've got to get in there and see what they're doing and be a part of it. It is huge for the community. You've got to be involved or they will take over. You know, that's just as plain as it is. If you're not in that meeting, you're not speaking up, it's going to be trouble. You know, the average age of the farmer is 60. You know, I look at that.
That to me is concerning because tradition, just like a police force, you know, it's a passion, but you got it from tradition, passed down from father to son. It's so hard now and so challenging. Some of the siblings are not following the footsteps. So how do we address that? That's certainly a concern, Lee.
Well, that's a concern for me. The average age is 60, but the bigger concern for me, that doesn't scare me because I've known people that farmers are tough. They're going to stick with it. You're going to see an excess of that age, you know, because they're, you know, it's just dad's 77. He's not even close to quitting. I talked to an 85-year-old farmer over there the other day that was in the chicken business. He didn't have a thought in the world about quitting, you know, so that doesn't really surprise me as much as the 35 and under with 9%. And I've heard different things that push that number of, oh, well, that's just people because they're, you know, not old enough to own a farm. You know, I don't care about any about that. What I care about is I had a good set of mentors growing up. All right. And that average age of the 60. So half of the knowledge, the things that the farmers own, the land will change hands in the next 10 years. So we're on the clock on getting that information to that 9%. You know, if we lose that generation of knowledge, these kids aren't going to make it. You can't go to a college and learn how to farm. That is very important. You can learn a lot and they can help you and they can help increase a lot of things, but to actually go to AI or to a college and say, teach me how to farm, you've got to be out there and you've got to have the experience.
Got to live it.
Yeah. And so this group right here, Dad's group, and that 60-year-old and older group, they've got a lot of knowledge that shows them how to get that profit that these younger kids don't have. And so through the next 10 years, we're on the clock on trying to get as many kids as we can in front of that age group to do internships, learn from those guys, because I'm telling you, if they come up and do it the way everybody tells you to, you're not going to make any money. There's slim margins in there, and you cannot turn around and do everything the exact correct way and think you're going to come out alive because it's going to cost you money.
Yeah. Then you got the other characteristics where you're battling so many things. Out here in South Carolina, so many people are moving in. We spoke earlier. I work for a congressman. We got a new congressional district because of the growth in this area. Well, that also comes with a development. So our land mass is really shrinking, which is certainly concerning to
it is concerning
the farm industry.
And what's the most concerning about that is that these kids aren't going to have a chance to buy land when they, 2% of farmers providing for 98% of consumers. Land's $30,000 an acre. They can't go out there if they're not in that 2%.
Cost prohibitive.
Yeah. It's cost prohibitive. And, they're competing with the tech industry, the energy industry, and the development industry. I wouldn't have made it if I had to compete against them. I'm barely making it, as it is. Farming is hard right now. I mean, I don't talk to very many farmers that say, oh man, it's great. And we're just money hand over fist. It's always one thing that they didn't anticipate coming into that year, whether it be fuel prices, tariffs, natural disaster. I mean, it's nobody's fault per se, but those things affect farmers, and we have to look at the different times of year. The stress is when this is when all our farmers are planting. They don't need fuel prices up right now. You could wait 2 months or 2 months earlier, and you wouldn't affect the farmers.
Right.
And so we need somebody that is in there that can put that out there and say, think about this group. They're feeding us. We need them to be on top of it and have all the breaks they can, and so I want to be that voice that just says, this is what farmers need. This is what they need to be successful. And I want to help bring it to them. And I think that I've got a pulse enough on South Carolina agriculture and the problems that it has that I can get that accomplished.
Right. Coach, we talked earlier, the demand, despite our growth, the demand for farmers' products is only rising. If our land mass is shrinking, I mean, we need that strong voice, someone like Lee there to really take that stance.
Well, he can, not he, but whoever is in that position.
That's okay. You got to speak. You got to speak these things, Coach.
If he is in that position, then the lady that goes and buys hamburger meat, and it's gone from $4.99 a pound to $7 and $8, and by probably summer is going to be $10 a pound. That's not his fault. That's not whoever's in that position's fault. But there's a lot of things that they can do to help them. He's got to be able to show leadership. This position, to me, has got to show leadership, because you can't make the law of South Carolina, because that comes from the House and the Senate and the legislature and all those people. But you can kind of show them, or kind of be a leader in the community of, this is how this can be. And I think the guy in Georgia
is very good. I like Tyler.
The guy down there and the guy that just got beat in Texas, they had two great ideas. One of them was in Georgia, and he is very well liked. A new ag director down there, commissioner of ag, and he has gone to a program where they have in
the retaining
vegetables,
heifers.
No,
yeah.
In Georgia they have created a program where the teachers, they hire them in the summer, where they own 9-month contracts, and they hire the teachers to teach these kids.
There's a cannery next to every high school.
How to do a cannery.
Yes.
And
so
they come back and buy the food from this cannery, and it all stays in the state of Georgia. Now, we short a bunch of cows in this country, and that's why the hamburger and everything's so high, and the strikes and everything else, and the feed costs, and the inputs and everything else. But what you have a problem is, everybody, the heifers are bringing so much money, they're killing their heifers. So there's no reproduction.
I see.
And so this guy in Texas said, we got to have some kind of stimulus, some kind of tax break or something that give us $200 or $300 on our heifers
for keeping them,
and it improves our herd in the state of Texas or in the United States. So there's got to be some deep thoughts like that by a lot of people in corn and Iowa and Midwest and wheat and everything. There's got to be some more processes than saying, well, we got to go plow the ground, throw the seed in the ground, put input in and fertilize it, and then pray that it rains, and it's a big gamble, and then we're going to get the same price we got it for it 3 years ago. And you got to have some luck. And I'm not a great farmer at all. I did it for a hobby, but I love it. I like to see that the most important time to me is in the spring and the fall, when those little calves are starting to grow, when they get out there and start bucking and running and kicking, and that to me is about life starting over again. Yeah. But these guys that row crop, that's tough.
It really is
work. And you talk about tobacco. I thank God we worked in the hemp field a little bit, and if it's any rougher than hemp, then I don't want any part of tobacco, because that tobacco they tell me those kids that lived in the low part of the state, they'd come in there and have to go prop tobacco before they go practice football, and it was terrible. I know.
Oh, you trying to prompt me now? Because me and my brother, that's what all day in the field, tobacco. You got that tobacco gum on your hands, and we all were playing football and dealing with tobacco gum on our hands. It was from the fields.
Y'all should have caught the ball a lot better.
But Fred Biletnikoff, you remember that? He had that sticky. Well, the thing about us, we never threw the ball in Dillon or Lakeview. Look, you were the recipient. I'll bring this up right quick. Sorry to stray for a moment. But two guys that I played against won the state championship in Lakeview, and you recruited them up there, Lawrence Brunson and Reggie Burton. Those guys, I tell you, they went to practice too with tobacco gums. That's how we were raised.
Sure.
And it paid dividends on the football field, Coach.
And they were great kids, and they were from a great community and had great leadership. From
Yes, sir.
Coach Jewel down there.
That's right, Joe McClure. Yeah, we talked about him earlier.
Really a great job. And that's the way, I see that maybe it's not the same, but football and football prepares you a lot for life.
Absolutely.
And I think that the leadership that coaches had back in the day, pulling the community together, pulling Friday night football is big in South Carolina, and that's what whoever's in this position, which hopefully it's him, can pull this whole state together and get. He's got some ideas about bringing farm to table deal and all this. That's his deal, and that's not my deal. But I know this position takes a great leader, and leadership is very important all over the state. And I'm telling you the truth, I'm a little bit depressed about the leadership all over the country. I mean, there's got to be more leaders. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not speaking up. But we need the very best of whoever they are. Now, could be him. It could not be him. I don't know that. The people is going to make that choice.
Yeah.
But it can't be bought. It can't be given to somebody. It's got to be earned. And it's got to be a situation that whoever it is, in whatever position, elected position, they better prepare and be concerned about the citizens and care about the welfare of the people. That's
Absolutely.
period.
Amen. We talked earlier about character and foundation. When you talked about your little put out, I'll use that word, we are with some of our politicians today, because we see so much self-servant. That's not what politics is all about. Lee, beyond the grind today, and you kind of alluded to it in our earlier conversations, it's not enough to work hard anymore. You got to be creative. Creative, I'll use that word often. In the beginning, God created. The fifth word in the Bible is created. So God even put focus on creation. We're creative creatures. We were made out of his images. Yeah. So, you talk a little bit about creativity and some of your initiatives. Maybe just expound a little bit on.
No, I mean, what we're all saying the same thing, which is great. I'll give it that. I do feel like that, and one thing that I will say, this is a national problem. This is not a South Carolina. Hugh Weathers didn't do anything wrong. He didn't do a bad job, nothing like that. It's that this is where society has taken us, being in the grind of moving every day very fast and having convenience. So, when I see what we're faced with, I see consumers don't know where to get the best food, and farmers don't know what to produce. So when I look at that, I look at the initiative that the Department of Agriculture has done, and they have an app that does every roadside stand and market in the state of South Carolina. And that's great. I mean, but for these guys to load up their stuff and go to a market and sit there and speculate all day, we don't need any more speculation. We need money coming through the door.
Mouthful.
Yeah.
Mouthful.
And so I want to see the app be able to list live inventory. So if I'm right across the street and I'm farming beef and I got 20 T-bone steaks in there, you can see that. And hey, if you got the kids and everybody's running around and you want something good to eat, all you got to do is go there. Oh, James got some steaks across there.
Not to interrupt you, but we talk about these phones and technology today. I'm kind of a dinosaur, and Coach over here was trying to get you to help him with his phone earlier.
Yeah.
We've got to have young leadership like you. You're 40. I think
you're
40. we've got to transcend into those mindsets that know how to do things in real time and utilize all this technology. If farming's going to survive, that's got to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's got
I'm
to be.
enthused that your age and
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's what and that was a big part of growing up for me, is seeing that no one else is taking the initiative, and that when you have kids and you have a 1 and a 4-year-old and you see how it's dealt with, that if I got a problem and I elected you, I want to be able to pick up the phone and get you. I don't care who you are.
absolutely,
And if you don't want to answer me, I mean, you can ask some of the people around the state. I'll make you listen to me. I mean, I've got a good enough platform to where I can say, I got a problem. I need help. Please help me. And the people in South Carolina have been generous enough to go to bat for me at certain times and say, hey, this person is working for something that is a worthy cause. But the other thing that I want on that app is, you as a consumer, hey, I want this produced for me. You can list that up there to where, as farmers, January 1st, we don't have to speculate everything. We can go look on there and say, James over here wants some steaks. We can go raise a cow and have that ready for them. I mean, we don't have a problem holding it for you. We don't have a problem planning it for you. We got a problem knowing what you want.
we got a guy in Marion County. I see him quite often. It's called the Atkinson Farm, and he raises beef, and he hits all the circuits selling his beef. And I've had his beef, and there is a distinct difference in the taste. I like knowing that I'm eating it locally, just raised right down the road from me.
Yeah. Well, people don't understand that when a lot of the processed and preservatives gets put in, it's because we're taking this commodity and we're taking it out of state and we're going to a processing plant and it's getting dealt with there and then it's getting shipped back. So if we can close that gap, we don't need those preservatives. We don't
Those
need
extra
those
steps.
things. We just, all we need is farm to table and bringing that raw commodity to the people. At the grocery stores, they'll never go out of business. There's so many different things that you can buy from the grocery store that, I mean, if you look, what do they say? Like, buy your stuff from around the edge, not in the middle. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, there's a fresh fruit section. There's still a whole other store that has all kinds of processed foods and different things that will always be a convenience factor. But if we as a community go to bat for our farm, say, this is what we need from you. Can you produce this for us? They'll end up with more nutritional food. I told somebody the other day, I said, when's the last time somebody that shot a deer and got sick?
Good point.
It's
You can't deny all the sickness that we have today. I mean, it's increased over the years, and that's because of all the everything these extra steps
and
that
I
speak
told
of.
him, I was on the show the other day, and I told him, so when you go, and this is not a deep dive or anything, this is a fact. When you go to a processing plant, and all these cows go to a processing plant, then you have people over there cutting pieces of meat off, and they throw it in a bucket. Then that bucket goes over there and gets ground for hamburger meat. They've done tests on that hamburger meat, and in a package of hamburger meat, you have 1,700, 1,500, however many it is, different cows in that packaging. You got a piece of this, and it all come together to make your hamburger. If we single source,
hold up, now, maybe I misunderstood. So if I go to the grocery store and in the meat section, pack of hamburger meat, that's not that one.
No.
Well, it could be.
No, it is not. No way. No way.
No.
Look, listen. Let's use thought here. This table is the assembly line, okay?
Okay.
And these cows are coming by, and we're taking cuts off of them. And there's a bucket right here for ground beef, okay? We're going to take that piece, we're going to cut it off, and we're going to throw it in that bucket. All right? We're going to do that all day. And then we're going to take that bucket and we're going to take it to the grinder.
So I never pondered that.
That's how it works. That's how it works. It's just like that. Our chickens are brought into the state.
Not unless I buy it directly from somebody.
farmer.
Well, that's
which is the advantage, right?
That's the whole
One
point.
of the advantages
is, we can figure out what's going on whenever they have a E. coli outbreak or something big. It's hard to track down because there's so many things that went into that one hamburger. If it's single sourced, then you can track it right back to the farm that it came from, and you can learn about how that's happening. Right. And we're not doing that now. It's just like, oh, this plant had a problem. You know what I'm saying? And so it's the same thing. I went up there and talked to the chicken farmers. They are controlled mainly by the big three packers, the JBS, the Tyson, the Cargill, and they ship the birds in. They own that house, that chicken house. They don't ever own the chickens. All right. They're just a worker and an owner of a house. All right. And they grow that bird the exact way they're told to. Every year it changes. They have to make different things to keep up with that contract. Well, they get the chickens, they load them on a truck, and they ship them out of state. The second those chickens go out of state, that revenue stops for South Carolina. All right. And they process them. Let's say in Georgia, they got a process plant in Georgia. Then they turn around, they put them back in a refrigerator truck, and guess what they do? They bring them to your Zaxby's, your Chick-fil-A, you different things, and that's great. It's a great thing to have convenience, but we don't have to go out of state. We can increase that infrastructure in the state of South Carolina to where we can bring that from those chicken farmers and get them independently running to where they're not controlled by the big four, and they can bring that chicken straight to that restaurant.
Right.
And that's what we're working on. We're working around ourselves. Where society has grown us into these middlemen. I'd like to tell this story. Tom Garrison, a very good friend of ours and farmer. Okay. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's a mentor to me. He told me about the dairies. The dairies used to be huge in South Carolina. I mean, they were big. They were everywhere. Anderson County had a bunch of them. I think Anderson County might have one or two now. Well, what happened is there would be a company, let's just say X, since I don't want to say any names, all right? And they would come out in a truck and they'd pick up the farmer's milk. And they buy that milk by the pound, all right? And so they would buy that milk by the pound, they'd put it in the truck, and they would give you your cost right there. Here you go. So you don't go hungry. Thank you. Well, then they would take that milk back to the processing plant where they would pasteurize it and they would bottle it. All right. And then they distribute it as whatever brand. We all know that those brands are kind of all great value to everything else, are kind of the same unless you get to a brand that is marketed. Well, what happened is they sold the milk to the grocery store. They took the money and they went bankrupt. And instead of coming back to the farmer and saying, here's your profit, they took it because they went bankrupt. And it put more farms in South Carolina into bankruptcy all over the country. Yeah. It was horrible. And so that's what we have to get out of, is the dependency on these middlemen. We have to build that infrastructure for the farmers. We don't need them to have to go out and say, oh, we're going to go to JBS to get our chickens and get them processed, because we don't have that ability in South Carolina. I mean, we've had 13 lumber mills in around South Carolina close, and it's cut the price of our logs in half. Some places in South Carolina, they won't even take logs, like James Island. I told them that they said they're having so much development in James Island that that's a byproduct for you to go down there and to tell a timber buyer, I want to sell you this timber. They won't give you any money for it. They don't want it. There's plenty across the road laying on the ground that they can go pick up for free to just get it out of there. And so, we have to bring the infrastructure. We had a soybean plant in South Carolina that closed down. It was the only one. So now if we're doing any more soybeans, got to go out of state. Can't do it in any state. It's either got to go to the port and go international, and go out of state and process. I've talked to several. Let me tell you, the best thing about having me as your agriculture commissioner, I want to say this, is I have a group of mentors that are the top people in the state. And if I could have gotten any one of them to run, I would have backed them 100%, but they're past it. They're not going to put in that effort. And, when they gave me the confidence to turn to them and to get some advice, I mean, I've had a guy tell me up in Pickens, we need a South Carolina grown distribution plant. That's a mighty fine idea. Now, all these farms that are having to hire drivers, trucks, all this different thing, well, they just have to ship it to Columbia Distribution Center. They can get their contracts all across the state, and the state move that product around, and they do it for all the farmers. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. To where if it's a huge economic hit, if they have to go buy vans, drivers, and handle all that stuff. And you might have a guy right here that's doing it, and then right down the road, the neighbor's doing it too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we can take a big part of their plate off by giving them the resources they need to get their product out, whether it be that app to where people can walk right across the street and buy it, or the distribution center where it can go all over the state by someone that is actually just handling that. Gotcha. The other thing that I hear is Charleston needs a bulk export for agriculture. Bulk. Some of the stuff has to go to Savannah. And they were talking about the other night. If you go from here to Charleston, how long is that? I'm not from the PD. How?
Are you about 2 hours and 30, 45 minutes?
Yeah. What is it from here to Savannah? Probably 4.
Yeah.
You know, so you're doubling your time by having to go down there as a farmer. You're doubling your cost, and that all comes back to the consumer.
So I could speak over that, and I wanted to bring this up. But before I do, listen, if you're in the chat, engage us. I will be glad to take a few questions. These folks aren't scared of questions.
No.
Coach, I see your bloodline. This man's speaking passion.
He does, but he scares me too because he knows more than I know and on this subject. But just so he knows what he's talking about, you know, if he does, and like I say, he can't do it by no one, not him, me, anybody can do it by themselves. It's going to take the state of South Carolina. It's going to take some young people. It's going to ideas. I'm a big proponent of term.
Absolutely. Ain't we all?
Everybody, I just want to feed you.
Everybody the elected official.
Anybody that stays in there, it's just like, you know, you can be a football coach and you're pretty good for a little while, and then when you get there too long, you get wear on people. Need to go. It's like Coach Howard used to tell me, Frank Howard. I was chewing the back, and I quit all that junk now, and I chewed it every ball game. And he said, "Boy, as long as you win, it's cute, but when you start losing, that'll get you fired."
I saw a clip of you. It was coaches, it was people around you said, "Yeah, he'd always mess up our shoes."
Yeah, that's right. I've had him tell me that he would stand up on that thing and almost spit on him, so they had to dodge it under that big old. You know how they have that crow's nest out there to watch the field. So yeah.
Well, Coach Howard, I used to say, Coach Howard, he'd always try to get ahead of me on everything. He's the levelest head man I ever met in my life, because tobacco's dripping out of both sides.
So let me tell you,
that's the only name that you could drop.
Yeah. Let me tell you this story.
Succeeded. I mean, that's the only name that you could use to drop.
You asked earlier about how I grew up.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I can remember there was the Holiday Inn in Clemson, and that's where the players stay. We ate Sunday dinner. They had a little bar up front. A good friend of ours, Jim Inslee, who's no longer with us, used to own that. And I can remember going up there with Dad and knee high to a grasshopper, and walking in there with Frank Howard, and I don't know the other 2 people that were there now. I just remember Frank for sure. And Dad was sitting there, and Dad is the cheapest man I know in the state. I mean, he is the cheapest man I know. But we sat there, and they were talking, and Dad was kind of mediating, and Frank was arguing with this other older gentleman. And, you know, they both got mad, and they stood up and said, and they flipped a quarter on the daggone table. And Dad grabbed a toilet. Oh, cheap. Here, take your quarter back here. I give her $1. You know, and so, you know, that's how I grew up of some of the best stories that you could ever.
I call it frugal. I call it frugal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I do remember, because the Coach Howard always tip at the quarter.
He got a little change purse.
Everybody had a little old football-looking purse.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Keep quarters.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that was the good old days, and we don't need to go back to the good old days, but we need some of the quality leadership of the good old days. And what you know, we're not going to solve. I'm not going to ever see the world's problems solved in my lifetime. My age is not going to allow me to see that. My grandchildren, I hope. Mm-hmm. I hope they can see a better way of doing things and producing and staying healthy, curing cancer. I hope they can do things in that generation that it don't go on to their children.
There's some real worries if you've got a one for.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
You know, I mean, he didn't have
our food source is part of curing cancer. Yep. It truly is. Lee, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this. So I do economic development, and down in Dillon County, we've really made an impact. We've got an inland port you were talking about the Charleston port, where our port in Dillon is connected directly to Charleston. It's with the CSX line, and it's really brought a lot of people looking at Dillon to locate various industries. But Harbor Freight is our biggest importer, but we're desperately looking for exports. But when I say export, I mean within the state too. But agriculture is our second biggest thing in Dillon County with the port, and for these guys to continue to make a living, we've got to have those.
I know where that.
We got Purdue Farms in Dillon, so we're rich all this area. So I tell you, man, it's exciting to see this passion combined with the knowledge.
Yeah.
I
appreciate it.
Here today.
Hey, I promise you that I feel so blessed because never growing up did I think anyone would value me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now I anywhere I go, people hear me talk, and it's just like when he talked. I mean, they respond very well for it. I don't know if it's me watching him talk that much growing up, or if it's the passion, or if it's realness, or whatever.
Character and steel.
Yeah,
you're raised with character.
Yeah, and it's different, and so I think I've been blessed with, in my older age, people want to hear what I got to say, and I really feel honored to be that person.
Nice.
Well, I think that this is something we need to remember too. However, these politicians, which I'm learning, and I wanted to do this once I got into coaching, but I was always afraid I'd get beat. I didn't want to I didn't want to get beat in anything, and much less get embarrassed in a race or something. So I never did. I never had the courage enough to do it, but I wish I had done it. Now, if I look back my lifetime, I wish, because I think I could have made some difference in people. But the farmers, and they're out there, and this is talking to you farmers, I guess. You got your opinion, you got your ways of doing things, and you're going to vote. But for the commissioner of agriculture, you cannot elect the commissioner. There's not enough of you.
2% providing for 98%.
You got to have all the people, and all the people got to get on board with the farmers. And you go have. You may be for A, you may be for B, you may be. It don't matter, but just pick the very best one. That's
because we're all impacted, whether you realize or not. Yeah, it's such an impactful.
But no particular group is going to choose the governor.
I agree.
Or anybody else in any race. So the steel worker, I mean anybody, but it's whatever. And that's just the point. I think people ought to, and I don't know if that's the way to do a race.
So I think you're spot on. I think you're spot on, and I think that's why we elect character.
Yeah.
We elect character. Lee, tell us. You guys have been grinding out. We're going to kind of wrap up here, but you guys have been grinding. What's in the future? I think I saw where you guys are all going to be in one room.
Yeah,
you've got some scheduled.
Yeah, events? Real quick, I want to tell you
the memory.
Yeah, I want to tell you. What kind of agriculture commissioner I'm going to be, and I saw Matt's comment coming up over there 5 minutes ago, and it's just like it's eating at me because I know he's got a question for me and I can't answer it. But Maha, good stuff. We can't be too dependent on anything. We obviously have to take steps in that direction. We can't just overnight go 100% away from everything that we've been dependent on through the last 20 years. It feels like since Monsanto's and all the stuff really got big. So, I'm definitely a proponent for it. I definitely love everything that stands for. I think it's, I think it's a definite term goal, not an overnight goal.
Got questions coming in here.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna take time.
Whatever you want to do. I'm good.
Tell us a little bit about where can we find you debating these guys?
So I'm pretty sure, I don't know the exact, so Farm Bureau in Florence is having it up at the Florence Tech building. I don't know where it's actually at up there.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I don't even know what day it is right now. I've got so much on the schedule, but I mean, literally I'm going to head home here, and I don't know if I'm going to make it, but there's a high school rodeo up there in Seneca, 8:00 tonight. I'm definitely going to go tomorrow. That's where I grew up. So I want to go be a part of that. That's, I went to the other rodeo at Clemson. And, you know, I want to say something about that, because T. Ed Garrison is a huge thing for all facility for the kids to use. I've used it a mentor of mine got with Senator Garrison, and they got the funding, they worked together, they did it all, and they had that built for the state of South Carolina. It's one of the only places in South Carolina that kids can go participate in agriculture, and it's served so well. And if you go up there at night, there will be a line to Clemson Boulevard of people trying to get in there and get in front of whatever they're doing at the time. And, you know, when I grew up in high school and got to the college level, there's no colleges in South Carolina that do rodeo. I had to leave, you know, and so it's very common in the rodeo world and somewhat agriculture. If you're going to be a serious professional, you have to leave the state. And that's always eaten me up. I don't like that. I didn't like that I had to go to Texas to be able to compete college rodeo and legitimately. You know, I didn't like that I had to go to Colorado to do that. You know, I wanted to do it here, you know, and I moved back here and trained horses, and the same thing, to continue my horse training career, I had to move to Florida and go work for a serious professional. Not that we don't have them here, but we don't even have as many events. We don't have any PRCA rodeos in South Carolina. We have high school rodeos. We have some amateur international rodeos. But, you know, we need to bring all of these ag events back that, you know, what is rodeo? It gets people interested, gets kids interested. They see it and they get that fire lit in them like I did when I was a kid, and it just opens them up to everything. We can't take anything away from these kids that might perk their ear and get them involved in farming, because we're having such a hard time closing the gap from there to the kids, from the people to the kids. And so I really believe that. And I think that some of this event stuff, you know, I mean, just look, whenever country music comes out, everybody gets a little bit more farmy. You know what I'm saying? Or like there's a big country concert. Next thing you know, all the girls are in cowboy hats, cowboy boots. And, you know, the whole community has picked up this agriculture back, which I love. I love to see it.
No doubt. So there is an appetite for rodeos, because
Yeah.
they have them here.
Oh, yeah, at Florence.
And it's packed.
Yeah, and
It's
I've never
always
been.
packed.
I hate to say it, I've never been to that facility, and I know that they do. They have IPRA rodeo down there. I know. I think it might have. How old's that facility?
Oh, it's been here.
Been there a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. Yeah, it must have just been that it was just out of reach for me, or I don't know, that we didn't have a high school rodeo. I know they have an IPRA rodeo. I know a bunch of people. I've seen their videos that they post after they go, so I know it is. And, you know, Camden, I used Camden a lot when I was coming up.
All my roommates from Camden.
Yeah, that horse facility up there was great.
Yeah.
We used to go down there and use that thing up. And
Carolina Cup's next week, I think.
yeah. And I think that I'm not sure about this, but it used to be independently owned. I think it's
I don't know.
owned by the state now. I don't know that,
Yeah.
but that's just a guess. But I remember when it was changing hands a couple times. But yeah, I mean, the more for those guys to have that idea in their head and to see how that's blossomed into T.A. Garrison, this Florence Arena, and to see how many people I don't think they ever knew I don't think it was like, I think they built it thinking we need a place to go rope when it's raining outside. And inadvertently, they have built this thing that just brings tons and tons of people to agriculture.
And it's wholesome.
Yeah.
You know, everything about farming and it's wholesome.
It's
stuff.
rewarding.
Well, just a little bit of conversation.
Yeah.
We're getting really, I can't help but think my favorite movie of all times. Do you ever watch Captain Call and Gus on Lonesome Dove?
Oh, yeah.
My
Lonesome Doves. I
favorite
have
movie of
to.
all
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, Gus.
How about a website and that kind of thing?
DannyFordSC.com. Follow me on Facebook. Go back and see my past and how I've grown. I mean, there's some rodeo stuff on there. There's some farming stuff. There's some kid stuff. You'll see a little bit of everything on there. You know, but I can tell you this. Dad was successful from helping kids. And when I got involved in Helene, when I got involved in the different things, I saw how much I could do with that motivation, propelling me helping these people. You know, there was 10 or 20 times that I was sitting out. Real quick, there was a Helene hit. They were trying to take stuff up there from on the road, and the roads were closed. And so they just started dropping that stuff off at the airport. Well, a bunch of pilots got together. I mean, a bunch. It was the largest general aviation non-organization thing that's ever been. And they jumped in planes and we went up there and we flew missions and dropped that stuff off and we came back till the roads open. And I bet you I sat in that plane 10, 15 times questioning whether I wanted to take off or not, or if it was too dangerous or what the deal was. And when I thought about those kids that needed me, those people that were counting on me, it made it not a question. And it made me get over that hump of something that would have held me back. And so finding that in my adult life has been a huge advantage to me.
Yeah. That's that genuine and passion that I'm talking about. That's the thing. You use the word that compels you above all else.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Zeb, you got any commentary there? You're behind the scenes today. Any commentary from you, sir?
No, I think I'm good. I mean, I enjoyed the conversation for sure. There's definitely a position for, the ag commissioner to do a lot of heavy lifting, especially nowadays. You talk about some of the larger companies. I got a couple guys that watch me that do, one of them's a pig farmer, a couple of them are homesteader types, and they try to sell stuff. I know they've had issues selling across states. I know they've had issues selling in state. I think one's in like New Hampshire or whatever. But like that would be an issue. And then along with that, I know there's some guys around here. I think a couple in Ainer that I bought a couple half cows from. Is there some leniency that you guys can give or your position can give to people like that, and how much of a letting off of the throttle of regulation for that can you do outside of?
Yeah, I mean, I want to come straight into that. From my background with the Department of Agriculture, it's all been regulatory, and I really want to put a customer service aspect in there and give these farmers somebody they can talk to, they can deal with these problems, and it's not just you have to do this and you have to get the
don't strangle them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like in no kind of way, but when we did our hemp permit the first time, they just gave it to you. Nobody had ever filled out a hemp permit. We didn't know what to do.
I remember that.
Now, why make them have trouble? Everybody had trouble with that. We didn't know how to do it. We didn't know what they expected. They're the only ones that know what to expect. Right. So why not just sit down with some people that wanted to put in for it and tell them what you expect from them? It's not that terrible of a situation. I see in government when there's that separation and the public is trying to approach and tell their representatives and they can't get through, it builds and it makes that ground rise, but if they can get there and at least be heard, you see just them able to work together, and so that I'd like to take a lot of that, regulation away if I could work and advocate for that. I would love to do that. If I can just not, do some of the regulatory stuff that's called on. That commissioner says whether you do it or not. So it is the way I've always understood it. So if I can tell them to ease up on some stuff, but real quick, they do so much. The Department of Agriculture, they just had all the DHEC stuff dropped on them to where they're now even grading all the restaurants, and I see that as a benefit because now we have 26,000 restaurants in the state of South Carolina that I have a connection with. And I also got 21,000 farmers in the state of South Carolina that I have a connection with. And I can fill those two gaps and I can put better food in the restaurant.
Yeah. Let's close with this. And out of respect, we're going to give Coach the final word before we leave here.
Oh, there's no
doubt. But listen, it's such a, and I work with Hugh Weathers many times, and the congressman did too. Which to this point, it's beyond state. You got to navigate the feds, that farm bill, and all this that comes around. I mean, you got to be a very diverse person. Yeah. So I know you know all that, but it's a heavy lift. It's a big job. But what I've heard here today, you have convinced me, sir.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm gonna say this in closing, and I'll let Dad close. I can convince that man right there to drive 3 hours and to sit with me and talk to people about agriculture.
Well, it wasn't without flaw because y'all pulled up in the wrong house when we got here.
We're not perfect, but we try really hard.
if he could just learn how to stay off the phone, and I'm hoping these police is going to catch him one time and put $100 fine on him, and he's going to say, I can't talk no more on the phone while I'm driving, because he'll try to do 4 things at one time, and that's what we can't do. We got to depend and put our thoughts forward on one step at a time, like he asked about. There's always certain things whoever runs this job can do.
Yeah.
But at least try to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And work at it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the young man will do that. But who knows? It's up to the people. And
we appreciate them.
We appreciate them.
Well, you guys listen.
But I like this. Yeah, this is what I've known after I left football. The people of South Carolina, any kind of color uniform you want to put on, and there's great ones all in garnet and orange and the Citadel. And
did garnet just come out of his mouth?
Yeah, it did. and anyway, it's the people have been nice, extra nice to the Ford family, coming from Alabama. And this is our home in South Carolina now. But the people have been over backwards for our family, and I know that, and I'm very appreciative of that. To be given the opportunity to be a football coach at 31 years old and didn't know squat.
Wow.
All you had was good intention, wasn't it?
I don't know what I had. I don't know.
31 years old. I forgot you were so young. That's amazing.
And that's
actually.
what I'm telling you. When I'm coming up and I'm looking at, I'm the same age as my dad when he. And I don't got I was later having kids at 35, and so it was always a struggle to me that I'm behind the 8 ball. You know what I mean? And now I just see that I wasn't in the right place. And so that's a blessing.
But it is. The people have been extraordinarily nice. I think they will listen, and if they like what they hear, so vote for them. If they don't, vote against them. That's the way the world works. And if you can help us. But at least do this.
At least care about it.
Get your butt to the poll.
Amen.
And vote, because if you don't choose who you want, then it's going to continue like it has been.
Yes, sir. And we can't afford that, and we cannot afford that.
It's not
sustainable.
No. It's like sort of the NIL. It ain't going to continue.
I pray not. It's not. You're trying to get in a whole nother conversation.
Let's go home.
Guys, it's an absolutely honor to have you here. I bid you safe travels. Bid you success in the campaign trail. I've been impressed here today. Great to see.
Yeah, good to see you.
Family reunited here, and it's just a wonderful thing.
I do appreciate him coming with me and backing me, and this would be a lot harder, if not impossible, if I didn't have my dad here with me today. So we're really blessed as far as good Lord's kept him safe and healthy, and hopefully I can go get this position and he can have a lot of time with the grandkids, and we can all build a future. That's what it's all about.
Good stuff, fellas. Zeb, any closing remarks for you, sir?
I think I'm good. I enjoyed the conversation. Maybe they can make another trip for the football talk.
Yeah. When we'll be back down here, because the first time I ever heard my son speak was in Lake City at a fundraising.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was cringing, didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth, but he did a pretty good job. I don't want to brag on him because I criticized him on the way.
Let me go out that door and he'll brag about me. I know.
That's what Pops do. That's what they do.
But we will be back down here for when they do the 4-H, not 4-H, but what do you call it a little while ago? Farm Bureau?
Farm Bureau.
Yeah, okay.
And that way you get to see all 4 candidates. And
right.
We'll
be there. We'll be there. We'll be there.
Great.
Throw them a reminder out there if you don't mind to your viewers and say, hey, it's coming up this week.
We certainly will. Great. You can count on it, guys.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you joining us in the Lions Den. We're on our political stroll, as I mentioned. We are the front porch of the weekend. We're going to exit out. You have a great weekend. We'll see you next week on the Lions Den.